What is a common criticism that most movies are privy to?
So let's talk about why modern movies look so dark.
Movies so dark.
So clean and almost fake.
We often view the past with rose-tinted glasses, going into detail about how things just simply used to be better. But why? Take a look at this scene. It's from Spider-Man 2, which is not revered for its beautiful visuals, but nonetheless presents itself as a beautiful movie. Take a look at this scene. It is from Baby Driver, which is a stylistic movie which is currently being talked about because of its visual language. Take a look at this scene. It's from Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. What if I tell you that all these three movies have the same cinematographer, but why do they look so different? What changed? To start, we have to go back to the days of celluloid. If you go to the text section under the IMDb page of all of these movies, you can notice that the film used, the negative film used, often has a number associated with it. It is most often than not, for example, Kodak Vision 3 250D or Kodak Vision 3 500T. What does that number mean? It stands for the ISO that the film was rated for. Now, ISO is the International Organization for Standardization, but in the context of imaging and filmmaking, ISO here means the medium sensitivity towards light. A lower ISO means the medium is less sensitive towards light, meaning it requires a lot more light to form a decent exposure. Whereas a medium with a higher ISO means it is more sensitive to light, meaning it requires less light in the scene for it to produce a decent exposure. Now, ISO was not a parameter that you had free rein over, especially in the days of film, as this ISO rating was something that was intrinsic to the film's emulation chemistry. You cannot change a 250 ISO film to make it into a 500 ISO film, unlike what we can do with digital cameras. And if you have any prior filmmaking experience, or you have used a camera that exposes all the exposure triangle settings towards you, you may notice that the ISO ratings that I'm talking about are uncharacteristically low. For example, let's take a prosumer camera that is being used by many low-budget productions, the Sony FX3. That gives you an S-Log3 Gamma, which has a minimum ISO, a base ISO of 800. Which is higher than the values that we've seen in the IMDb section here. Compared to modern digital cameras, film simply wasn't very sensitive. For decades, cinematographers and lighting technicians were always fighting film. Because if you wanted to shoot inside an enclosed space, simply pointing the camera toward it would not do it justice. You had to light the space first before you could light for the face. This meant that every single scene was being carefully considered, and it also meant that there was a different kind of choice at play there. Contrast ratios were created using light. If you wanted to have a darker key side, you would make the light opposite the key much brighter to compensate for it. Instead of subtracting light, we added light to the scene. Take a look at these shots from famous movies such as Lawrence of Arabia.
Long journey. Can you ride the camel?
I've never tried.
Take him.
Andrei Tarkovsky's Stalker. And heck, even Iron Man. All of these movies were shot on celluloid film, and they were shot by cinematographers who had extensive experience working with film. The way I am portraying film, you might wonder, why am I so against digital filmmaking, especially when I am making extensive use of digital filmmaking to get my point across. Film is not the end-all, be-all for filmmaking. If film had been the price of entry towards filmmaking, a lot of filmmakers would have not had the chance to explore their voice in this visual medium. Take a look at this match-lit sequence from the movie Shutter Island featuring DiCaprio. Now, the intent is that this scene is entirely lit by the light of a matchstick. And at first glance, the lighting does seem to confirm that. However, if you spend a little bit of time freeze framing the movie, you can notice that the light is not actually incident from the matchstick. This is good cinematography because when you watch the movie, you're not taken out of the movie just because the matchstick did not light his face. But it served the purpose that the story required for it. This scene was supposed to be lit with a matchstick and supposed to be dim because he is inside a prison which has no light sources. This movie came out in 2007 and it was shot on celluloid film. A few years later, David Fincher shot a camera test using a RØDE 1, one of the first digital cinema cameras, and this was what he shot. It was actually lit from the light of a matchstick. Compared to digital cameras, film was not very sensitive, and digital cameras could literally see in the dark. Modern digital cameras perform a lot better with underexposure than overexposure. So this meant that modern cinematographers who had practiced their craft working on digital cameras tended to prefer darker images because you can always course correct down the line. And the increased sensitivity of digital cameras also meant that you can now paint with light instead of being forced to pump light. So it became a question of how do we show this rather than do we show this or not. However, years of conditioning meant that we have intrinsically associated the look of celluloid film as that which looks cinematic. That is why a lot of films, even nowadays shot digitally, use print film emulation. So the answer to why movies look dim is that they are being shot on digital. Is that right? Take a look at Knives Out. Knives Out 2 Glass Onion, and Wake Up Dead Man. Now, all of these are modern movies, and even the last two are Netflix productions. Why do they look so good? They were shot on film, right? That's why it looks so good. When you see a beautiful painting, nobody asks what brush did you use, what canvas did you use. They assume that the beauty of the painting is because of the artist who created them. Similarly, in filmmaking, the beauty of an image is not a property of the medium that is being used to capture. All these three movies were shot on digital. Steve Yedlin, cinematographer of all the three Knives Out movies and a longtime collaborator of Rian Johnson, has his own website where he breaks down the ideal film emulation pipeline, going into detail how digital cameras are merely data collection devices. They have no known biases. All it does is capture as you show it. So if you light the scene the way old film sets used to, if you light the space before the face, you can still produce an image that looks equally as vibrant and as rich as those in the days of film, only that now the barrier of entry is a lot lower and it does look a lot crisper because modern digital cameras do not have the same amount of noise and grain that film used to have. Movies are not devolving. Our tastes are evolving. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video.